Welcome to the Heartwork Podcast, where we delve into stories, struggles, and triumphs of entrepreneurship, leadership, and personal growth. I'm Dr. Sarah.
And I'm Dr. Marisa. We're here to guide practitioners, entrepreneurs, leaders, and those just navigating the complexities of life on a journey of discovery that explores the dance between passion and strategy, heart and hustle.
With candid conversations, insightful interviews, and plenty of laughs, get ready to uncover how leading with heart can transform your business and life. Let's dive in.
This is going to be so fun. Guys, today we're going to talk sales. We're just going to dive in and talk some sales, talk some objections. And I always like to preface this in the sense that, most of the times when people are asking you quote unquote objections, they're not really objections. They actually are invitations. They either want to learn more, they want you to then establish authority. Sometimes people literally ask you a question because they want to see just how you're going to respond to it. And it's almost like a test in a way. So I always look at objections or quote unquote what may seem like a barrier to closing a deal or being able to have a sale happen as really just an opportunity. And these are opportunities not only for you, because both Sarah and I talk to a lot of students and we help mentor other chiropractors in our field. And it's constantly coming down to the one thing I think in every service-based business is just, are people going to want your service? Are they going to pay for your service? Are they going to make the time to come and receive your service? And those are by far typically the top problems that are needing to be solved so that business can happen and move forward. And so I love this. I love the process of sales. I love learning this and practicing it. And one of the things that both Sarah and I really advocate for, because we've done this ourselves, is role playing and practicing. You can get asked a question by 10 different people in 10 different voice tones in 10 different ways or 10 different perspectives. But if you yourself are not confident in your answer, if you are not eloquent in the way that you speak, that can be the difference maker between them feeling confident in your answer and ready to move forward, or questioning your authority or questioning your knowledge about the situation and not. And that doesn't mean you need to sound rehearsed, but it does mean that you need to sound eloquent and ready to handle questions that can come next and after. So we're going to go through some different common ones. And I actually shout out to Stupar Sales Academy for having this little flashcard idea. It sparked some different thought processes for me. I think that in our field of healthcare and chiropractic, when it comes to closing care plans or closing sales and closing deals, sometimes we tend to overcomplicate it just because of our hearts for service and our desires to see everyone truly live a happier life and get access to care. At the end of the day, we have to remember, especially as entrepreneurs, we do have a business, we have overhead, we have team to pay, we have things that we are taking care of so that those individuals get the best of us, the highest service, the most convenient capacity. Sarah and I both use apps for people and technology in the office that allows an ease of access and scheduling for busy families in their lives. And we hire people and want to pay them well so that you can, as a client, experience them and experience this service and really have that 10 out of 10 excellent experience in both of our offices. So objections in general can happen, especially in the sales process, because of a lack of perceived overall value. And it doesn't necessarily mean that you haven't done enough to communicate value, but that person, whether they don't really value themselves enough to value your product, or just are also bogged down with things that they're thinking about, whether it be financials or time, which are the two top kind of barriers for people saying yes, especially when it comes to care in a chiropractic office, for example. But one of the things that Justin had kind of put and said out there was that your customer isn't always just perceiving lack of value in your sales presentation, but it's also because of their subconscious. And when they're thinking about doing business with you, they're not comparing the decision to doing business with you to all the good decisions that they've made in the past, but are comparing it to all the bad decisions they've made, in the sense of is this going to actually help me? I've invested in stuff before and it didn't do anything. I don't want to waste my money. I don't want to waste my time. I don't want false promises, right? And so it's about really finding ways to build them up with stories, with testimonials, with examples, with social proof, so that they can also start to make decisions based off of the good decisions that they've made. And so, one of the ways that you can help kind of rotate that conversation to help their subconscious think about good decisions that they've made is to literally ask them about like other times where they have made a decision and things have worked out, whether it be in health or whether it be like in another completely different avenue of their life, because
Right.
again, you're helping them decide on the things that like what did actually help you in the past with things. What things have made a difference in your life, because then you can use that story in that context to help continue and enhance what you're actually bringing to the table. One of the other things when it comes to objections is if you know that time and finances are the top two things people are going to ask you about when it comes to closing your sale and it comes to care plans, why aren't you just addressing that from the get-go? I mean, oftentimes my team will just start off like, listen, the top two things people have questions about are time and about finances. When it comes to time, like typically our first appointments are the longest. After that, you're in and out of our office within 10 minutes. Like it's a quick and easy process. We make it convenient and easy for you and your family. We schedule a time that's good for you, but you have also access to an app that you can change your appointments like on the fly and on the go as needed. When it comes to finances, that's really just a value, priority, decision, or discussion that you have to have with yourself or anyone else that helps you make those decisions. Health is an investment, not an expense. Most people, when they have their health, they want 1,000 other things. But when they don't have their health, they just want one thing, and that is to
Mhm.
feel good, be healthy. Mostly comes down to feeling good. If they come from more of a wellness background, they may also recognize the purpose of functioning good. And that's also kind of our job as a chiropractor is to help them curate that conversation away from pain and also to general function, because we know that pain is like literally the worst employee you've ever had. It's usually the last to show up, it's the first to leave. But the marking of pain doesn't necessarily mean that there is not an improvement or a change in function. And so don't be afraid to just like say, listen, one of the reasons our customers generally end up buying our care plans or buying our package of adjustments, even though ours is more expensive, is because blah, 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 blah. You get access to us. There's a text line. You get to have the ease of scheduling. We have family discount, whatever it is, whatever services or things that you provide. Why not just highlight that and say it? Why not just say it right from the get-go and put it out there? Because then it decreases the opportunity for them to come back and say, well, yours is more expensive than others. And then you have to like somehow now make up or like address it, which can make you feel more salesy versus then just saying it right from the get-go. Yeah, we are a more premium product and this is why.
Mhm. I think one of the just to add to that is like if you are hearing a bunch of objections all the time, that should be a conscious moment for you to say, okay, how do I handle these objections before they even become objections? So,
Totally.
like what Maurice is alluding to is like, if you have somebody all constantly asking for insurance verification over the phone or what are your costs, and like, obviously, you either need to have a major script so that your team knows how to handle that objection if you're not voicing transactions or prices over the phone or anything like that. But you
Yeah.
can have it on a website. You can have it certain places. You can have an FAQ. You can talk about it on the phone. It's like there's these things that are communicating along the way. And one of the, which we might get into more of this, but one of a very common objection when somebody gets onto care is like, okay, well, once I feel good, I don't need it anymore. Right. So
Mhm.
it's like that conversational piece needs to be happening literally before they even come into your office.
Mhm.
Like that happens on your website, that happens in your social media, that happens the minute that they call and they schedule with you to where you're communicating that for like wellness lifestyle type care. So that's
Right.
like the beautiful part about sales is it's not just also on the sales aspect on the day one. It's really sales is such a beautiful rhythm throughout the whole journey of somebody's process with you. And
Right.
if you miss that, at least I believe, like you miss the opportunity because what I don't even know what the percentages is, but it's way harder to gain a new customer than it is to retain one.
Yeah.
And so to be able to retain that, I mean, that's you're literally selling yourself every single moment that that person comes into contact with you. Whether or not you're having a value exchange of dollars, you still are having a value exchange with them entering into your space at the same time.
Yeah, 100%. And people are sometimes scared to put some of those things out there to the public. They're like, well, I don't want to say that out loud because I want them to like come in and actually experience us. And then maybe that won't be an objection, like the insurance question, right? There's a lot of practices out there that are moving away from taking insurance or are just limiting the types of insurance that they're taking. And people call and are like, I pay a lot for my insurance. I want to know whether you take it or not. Sometimes that is a deciding factor for people, but
Mhm.
why do we need to be like shady on the phone and like, well, we'll do a benefits check when you come into our office. If you don't take insurance, don't lie. Just
Yeah.
literally say we are a cash based office and then say why you are and what that purpose is so that then people can make an informed decision about actually that does sound good. Like I do want someone that is partnering with me, not just with my insurance company, or I do want someone that cares about my long term health versus just a short term symptom band relief. Because at the
Mhm.
same token, if that person on the other end is really looking for just a quick fix, short term band aid relief, and that is not your office, what you're actually doing now is convincing that person to come in and spend their time and money in your place. And they're probably going to be a more pissed off customer because you weren't upfront and frank about what to expect when you could have just referred them down the street to another place. That's what they're actually looking for right now. We get more people that say thank you for just like sending them to what they're looking for. And then they know what we do and have come back to us and say, I didn't like actually that one time pop shop. Like I recognize that I'm actually looking for more of what you provide. I'm ready to come in now. Like that's beautiful. They've already sold themselves, right? And so, even just recently, my office did like a reel about insurance and put it out there, and we had like 4 or 5 other chiropractic offices share it because it's one of the most, I think, questions that get asked, especially when you're starting to first, you know, come into contact with a potential lead. But so again, just knowing what people are looking for, but also knowing their personalities a little bit. Like
Yeah.
some buyers are just more direct and they just want information. Tell me what it is. Yes, great. Thank you. I'm done. They don't want the fluff. They don't want you to like sit there and tell you all the different things. This is what's up. Can you help me? Great. Yes, I'm in. Okay, let's go versus like someone else who's maybe trauma dumping in their consultation and is like sharing this, that, whatever. And they need that personality that's there and ready to like hold them through that and more of that kind of interpersonal connection with someone before saying yes to a sale. And so, are you actually providing that person with the same level of resource that that person needs and is from you? Because if you have not an abrasive, but like a blunt team member or someone that's just like very direct, that might not be the best pair or the best matching for that buyer and their psychology. Some buyers like will never stop asking you detail oriented questions or like for research or for social proof and other things. So do you have someone that really has that on the tip of their tongue and is like ready to share those resources from them or send them home with them right from the get-go because you know that that's that person and what they appreciate, right? So just also understanding the person that's in front of you and their personality type to understand their buying type to then be able to help bridge that gap a lot sooner.
Absolutely. I mean, I feel like that is something that is not always super easy to understand, but it
No.
can be trained, like, you
Yeah.
can train that, especially for team, but you also need to know who you're putting in that room. So, like, to your what you're saying, you need to know obviously who you're coming in, but that again, those things can be answered ahead of time. So that's what your intake forms, like you can put on your intake forms, what are their favorite hobbies? Like what do they really love? Like you can do certain things to be able to gather information ahead of time so that you know that. And also if it's a mom with a kiddo that's major sensory or have major focus or bopping around, it's like you know that you're going to go into that to a mom that's probably incredibly distressed, searching all over the place, like not sleeping at night, like, so that type of situation, you're not just gonna put like well, that situation, you're gonna put the person in that room to be able to handle that with the best care, with the most empathy. At the end of the day, stories are 100% gonna be the thing that sell,
Mhm.
and to be able for you to be able to understand, like, whoever's in that room, to acknowledge who's in front of you, acknowledge what they're going through. I understand, I feel you, and I understand what's going on, and this is how this can tie into who you are and what you're experiencing, and this is what we've shown for the result and transformation of this. And so that's like one of the like biggest things that we really, really hone in on for us specifically. Like at the end of the day, like I can freaking sell anybody and I can sell somebody a care plan, but at the same time, like I want to sell somebody for the transformation that they're going to be experiencing because they're then going to be a lifetime person. And so to be able to understand who you're coming in contact with, to be able, like you said, if they are a direct negative Nancy to a certain degree. It's like where they just want to be able to like talk about all the things they want the research, like be prepared to be that. And you can also have that conversation back to them.
Mhm.
Like they don't have to just like have to give them all the information. Why would you be in a room with for an hour with somebody when they only want you to talk to them for 5 minutes because they already made up their mind? So being able to accommodate to that is a little bit of that chameleon, but it's like if you were training your team to do it, those are the scenarios and the role playing options to do with your team. So
Mhm.
the best thing, like when you were in intern office, like we did these things where I would
Oh,
literally
yeah.
put like folded pieces of paper around and everybody pick one and talk through how you would work through this scenario in front of everybody. Like
Right.
it's like moments like that that you can create opportunities for not only for the individual that picks the piece of paper or the situation for them to have to navigate work through that process. And it allows for collaboration for everybody else to hear how somebody else would handle a situation and also give feedback at the same time. So
Yeah.
there's so many ways to be able to do it. But to be able to make sure for one, you're all on the same page, but also you know how to handle the situations that do come up for the varying of people that are going to come into your place of business.
It's really important, and it's important to continuously revisit it because again, like sales is it is it's an art and it needs continued refining. And also the more you have team doing it, the more there's different situations that pop up, there's different opportunities for you to showcase or share something that worked really well in a certain situation. And I do get some people that ask me, well, like my one team member, she did all the training, she went through it, but like she's really shy, she doesn't like public speaking, and that like really intimidates her. And I was like, okay, do you want her to be intimidated with your team or do you want her to be intimidated with your potential lead? Because
Mhm.
what we do have and sorry, I'm going to do this for chiropractors, but what we have as a service is freaking life altering. There is no one that's going to come into your doors that isn't going to experience change. The timing aspect of it, how intense the change is, all of that are variables based on each individual's case, but nobody walks in and out of your office and doesn't experience change if they get adjusted correctly and well.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't happen. So like the sale isn't even a sale. Like when you talk about story, like you literally are changing lives as chiropractors and as chiropractic offices. So like also own that power and own the stories. If you are not celebrating positives on a regular basis, if you are not reviewing and reading your Google reviews with your team, if you as the doctors are not sharing the things that people are telling you in your rooms with your team so that they have context to share that with new potential leads or people they meet in their community, you are doing your community a huge disservice. Because if you're not selling, that means you're closing someone else for a life full of potential other health complications and a quality of life that is not as optimal as what it can be. So whenever you get a little intimidated about the sale or intimidated about role playing with your team or your other potential people, don't forget about the fact that this can be the difference between a life and death situation for someone.
Mhm.
Seriously, this can change the trajectory of an entire family based on them receiving care in your office. So just don't forget about the impact that you're making. No matter what, you are making an impact. So like forget about the fact that it's sales. Remember its impact. One of the things that I kind of loved and thought was pretty brilliant was if people have told you or you're meeting people in public and they're like, well, I've tried chiropractic before, or I've tried XYZ service before, and it just didn't work for me. I love this. It's like taking almost responsibility for the failure, even though it wasn't yours. So saying, I totally understand and take responsibility for the fact that you're not a client today. And people say, well, like, it wasn't you. It's not your fault. And like, yeah, of course, I appreciate that. But the truth is that if I were the person that you had worked with from the beginning, if our office was the office that had worked with you, your experience would have been incredible. So, where did this profession seem to drop the ball in the past? I'd love to be able to figure out what we can do differently moving forward with you as a client to improve. And
That's
almost just like sharing that, like, how beautiful does that also just like decrease the defensive barrier of a person of like, no, 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 like that didn't work for me. Oh, well, I take full responsibility of that. If I had been able to work with you and like care for you, your experience would have been completely different. Tell me, how can we improve so that you actually get to see change?
Mhm.
Like, I thought that was just such a different approach in the sense of like an opportunity where someone says it didn't work for me and not saying like all the different not just spewing back at them, well, like, we do this and we do this and we do that and we have scans or we have red light and we have blah, 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 blah. And that's going to help you. But literally just saying, like, I take full responsibility for this because if we had the opportunity to meet 5 years ago, things would have looked so different for you right now.
Mhm.
Well, that was pretty cool.
That is cool. I feel like that's also a like on if people ever discontinue care in your office or in your
Mhm.
business, I think that's a beautiful place to also acknowledge that same sentiment for the opportunity of like, I mean, we almost do an exit interview with people that are no longer with us, like, or that for some reason maybe life is changing. But we do this too on all of our touch points along the way. It's like it's basically surveys at the same time of like they're surveying your office, like how are we doing? Would you change anything? How are the doctors? How is the team? What's your feedback if you have any? Because at the end of the day, like those are also really important things. Because if people leave my office, I hope that they're not going, like you're saying, out into the community and saying the same thing
Right.
about me and my experience. And so, or their experience with me. And so, if I can allow an open conversation to be able to be had, because I'm not too big of an individual where I'm not going to be humble enough to ask, like, what feedback do you have for so that we can be bigger or to be better?
Right.
And I literally have this one conversation. It was not an easy conversation. This lady had been with me for like 3 years, and she always marked us as average, like always. And my office and my business, like my team, we are excellent. Like I will literally, we at least go out of our way to be the most extraordinary experience and humans for every single person that walks in our doors. And we really go above and beyond. I truly believe that. Well, at the same time, again, we are humans and there's probably going to be moments, there's probably going to be things like team may not be their most perky selves some days and may not call somebody by name or whatever. We're still human beings in that. And so she would always mark us as average. And then she actually moved further away from her office. So we were recommending her to go to somebody else because it was becoming more of an hour drive for you to even come to us. So it's just creating more tension. And so I had an exit interview with her. I was like, I really would love feedback. We had lots of feedback prior to this moment at the same time, but I would really love feedback from you because you continuously put average, you continuously have pointed out things that you wouldn't or you would maybe change, but also I don't feel like you've really given us real honest answers. I don't feel like you've actually felt like you could. And so I really want to take the time to actually truly just like let me talk, let me have you ask some questions to you. And we had a really brilliant conversation. At the end of the day, like a lot of the things that she was saying, I'm biased, they weren't true. However, at the same time, part of it is just them being able to voice their thoughts and their opinions and what they view their experience was. Like whether or not it's true or you believe it, like how things were handled, like that's okay. It's still their perspective. Like, and it's fair for them to be able to share that without taking offense to it or getting defensive to it at the same time. And um, so in the end of the day, like what you're saying, it's like to be able to acknowledge what has happened and take ownership of that, regardless of whether that person ever comes back into my office. Like I'm going to love them on the way in. I'm also going to love them on the way out,
Amen.
like, and believe that if they're meant to come back, then they will come back, So having that emphasis and that heart behind, again, the beginning and the end. And also when you're out meeting people, it's like it can literally transform the relationships that you're building.
100%. I tell those people all the time, the end of the relationship is almost more important than the start of it.
Yeah,
And 100%, if that person's going to walk out your door and you left a sour taste in their mouth, they're guaranteed never coming back. Like you need
exactly.
to cultivate that conversation with a lot of grace and a lot of honor. Um, and again, like, it's just opportunities for feedback, and, it really is important for you to love people on the way out, because also you don't have control over what's actually going on in their lives, and you don't have authority to demand to know what the decision really is, whether what they're telling you is the truth or not, but you can continue to remain open, and also be a place that they can come back to whenever that might look like or whenever they're ready.
Absolutely.
So should we get into the money objections everyone's always wanting to know about the
Let's
financial?
do it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So question one, not sure I can afford it. Cool. I understand and appreciate the honesty. To be sure, when you say that you can't afford it right now, do you mean that you don't want to make the purchase or that you can't make the purchase right now, even if you wanted to? If the buyer says that they can make the purchase, go back and figure out what they need to do to make the purchase. If they say they literally cannot afford your product, then move them to a different product or a different service that they can't afford, whether
Mm.
that's in your office or whether it's in a different office. Because again, you can still help them find a solution to their problems, whether or not it's with you. And sometimes, again, our egos get in the way of that. But what is the better taste to leave in someone's mouth? Okay,
Mhm.
sorry, well, we just can't help you. This isn't going to work. Or what is it that you're really looking for? Okay, that's not something we can provide at this time. Let me give you the recommendation of places that may be able to assist you. Because then
Yeah.
again, you're still helping them find the place that they need to go.
I think too, like one of the you as a company and a business need to know what your non-negotiables are for what you're willing to merge on if it comes to financial rhythms for our specific businesses and are the world of healthcare that we offer. There are ways for sure that you can change how many visits you're recommending. You can change how often you want to see them. I'm not changing my cost, but that's going to be one of the first things that I will negotiate if need be, is to be able to potentially change the recommendations that will be there, elongate it for longer time versus a shorter time, like trying to get creative with that. And also at the end of the day, like, because I think, like you said, like if somebody does want it desperately, there is going to be a way that they will add value and they'll understand how to make it possible. You
Yep.
just need to ask the right questions to be able to get there. So,
Yep.
like, if they want the care, awesome. Like, have you actually considered big prior? Like, this one, something I will straight up ask. Like, have you actually considered what it is that you'd be willing to pay for something that you're choosing for more of a preventative option of care? Like, if somebody's coming in and saying, I want $100 a month, then 100% I also know that we are not going to be the fit for that person.
Right.
Like we then at that point will recommend them out to somebody else. But if they're saying like, okay, like I have wiggle room for about $100 on this care plan, it's like, fantastic. Let's see how we can navigate that and work that out. Because if that's going to limit you from being able to attain care, like we want to be able to work with you to make sure that we honor that space for you, to make sure that that's not a financial stress at the same time. So there are definitely ways to be able to maneuver it. But you also just need to know what those non-negotiables are. Like if you're absolutely a diehard, I'm like, they absolutely need to start at X, Y, and Z amount of visits a week or X, Y, and Z from there. And like for a certain frequency of time, like that's also okay. You just and your team need to know what those are so that need to know, or that you know how to be able to handle those conversations.
Yeah. So speaking about that, like you talked a little bit about the actual like price. So if someone does come back to you and is like, it's just too expensive, Um, I completely understand what you're saying, respect the honesty. So when you say that it's too expensive, do you mean to say that like you can't afford it right now? You have found something similar for less, or it's truly just outside of your budget? You can always add in like a little joke. Like, are you just complaining like I do at the coffee shop every morning when I hear what they charge for coffee, but end up, buying it anyway? And like, can you be relatable in that moment? But most people shy away. Most people hear it's too expensive or that's not in my budget, and they're just like, um, uh, um, uh, okay, and like don't know what to do. Like, how many of us have team that's not really willing to like ask that question and be that bold in just saying, okay, you've presented me with a problem. Who cares that it's a money problem? What would you say to someone that's like, I'm not sure of the schedule? Like, I feel like people have much more ease in saying, well, here's what we can do to be flexible, or what kind of schedule are you looking at, or how many times a week could you potentially get here? But for some reason, when it comes to money, we just immediately clam up because it's such a trigger for so many different people. So, okay, let's say that they're like, yeah, your price is higher than theirs. Like I can find it, more affordable somewhere else. Totally understand. And I get that. Like I like to save money where I can too. Not saying that we can, but if our price was the same as theirs, who would you rather do business with? And hopefully the answer that they're going to say is you. And so you say, well, I love to hear that, obviously, but tell me, why would you rather do business with me if our prices were the same as the other XYZ down the street? And let them tell you why they want to do business with you or why they prefer your service or your product over someone else. And like, well, I figured you might say that. So now you can see why we do charge just a couple more, dollars or bucks. And by the way, have you ever regretted spending just a little bit more for a better service? You're almost like helping them kind of get to the conclusion of like why it is that your service is at the cost of it is versus lowering to meet them somewhere else. Or if they say that they can get it cheaper, another alternate way would be like, I totally understand that. Thought you might say that. We're usually not the cheapest option. Tell me, when you're looking to make a purchase, do you typically make decisions based on the getting the absolute lowest price, or do you tend to look for overall quality and the level of service you can receive and or how fast you can get something? Just can you be genuinely curious in a conversation that might make you uncomfortable, but gives people the opportunity to, like, again, maybe get out of their like fight or flight brain of like considering all the things that could go wrong with a decision and help them get to the conclusion of understanding why they're in your office and what attracted them to you, your team, your service in the first place, because they're sitting in front of you. So
Mm.
they're curious enough to get an understanding. And typically, if they were referred by other people in your practice, this doesn't happen as often because there may have already been like a little bit of a conversation on price, or like someone could have said, yeah, like XYZ is really great. They're a little bit like pricier than, I don't know, the joint down the street. But like, gosh, this is all the things that this is all the things that we've seen. These are all the things that they do. Sometimes they might just come back and say that maybe like, again, the monthly price is too high or what you're proposing is too much. And you can't, I mean, again, it depends on how bold you want to be. But if you want to work through sales, you kind of have to have some uncomfortable conversations. And they might not actually be uncomfortable conversations, but again, just like our own shit that we're bringing to the table in discomfort. Like, can you ask them if they can think of other bills that they pay on a monthly basis that they love to pay because they're too low? Like, probably not, because me either. Although this service, like our chiropractic, might turn into your favorite monthly bill, it is the one thing you're going to be excited to pay for because you get feature, and you get this ROI, right? And you're like
Mhm.
telling them about the service. So again, you don't always have to necessarily go immediately to, oh, well, we get discounts, or, oh, well, if you pay in full, we have a discount, or blah, blah, blah. Like, don't focus on devaluing your service. Can you actually focus on helping them continue to see the value in what you provide and understand that they make decisions all the time? And people buy expensive stuff in their own minds all the time because of some reason or other. It triggered them enough that they were like, I want that. So when you're in the face of that, can you talk them through understanding what the true objection actually is and just whether or not they want someone to help them make the decision? Even if they do talk about, like, I mean, I know for us, we do have like monthly options for pricing as well as a pay in full option. So if someone comes back and says like the monthly price is a little too high, you can always say, totally understand. That's why some of our customers end up deciding to just pay it once and be done with it and write a check for XYZ. That way they don't have to pay it monthly anything. Does that sound like a better option for you? Versus like shying away or being like, well, you can split this cost twice a month, or, if you need to like pay a little here and then we can pay a little there at the end of the month. Like, why are you trying to try and find different options, or like that's the point I think where we get a little feeling like we're getting salesy, is because again, you're trying to come up with solutions that you think they want versus just like being clear about what there is to offer already that's present.
Mhm. I was gonna add, I think one of the other sometimes it's before, but also it's like after you ask the question, we can get in our own way by trying to fill the gap and trying to fill the space without letting silence be your best friend, and letting somebody sit and navigate and figure out what it is for themselves so you know what they're actually gonna be communicating. So if you provide a sale and you let them go, like, you need to provide the sale and then let it be.
Right.
Be quiet. Allow them to be able to process it and then give you an objection if it is an objection.
Totally.
Sometimes it's not even one, like, but don't perceive the objection's gonna come before it is even announced, like, don't try to rework a freaking plan or an option for them before they've even told you something. So, like, I
Right.
think it's wild. I have a lot of people already, it's like they're already preemptively thinking, "Oh, they're gonna give me that's too expensive, so I need to already have it prepped and prepared."
Oh,
It's
yeah.
like, no, I mean, at the end of the day, like, our job is to be able to provide it, be quiet, let them think, let them be there. And then if they do have a thought process, because sometimes it's just like, regardless of anything, like I know when I went and purchased my car, like I just think about it as a big car payment, right? I had to like, the guy told me the cost. And I remember looking at me like, it's like my brain is thinking about, okay, how am I going to budget this? What am I going to think about? Do I need to lower any? It's like my brain is going through 5,000 questions and scenarios at one time.
Yeah.
And if you, the salesperson, are only adding on top of that for them to answer more questions, it's like you're getting in your own way before
100%.
they actually give you the answer that you're looking for or the question that you're trying to answer for them.
Yes. It's so
So,
overwhelming. Like, just
yeah.
hold space. Again, you have no idea what they're thinking about. They could be thinking about, okay, well, I got this, or I'm getting this tax refund, but I was going to allocate it to this, but now I'm going to allocate it to that. Like, there could be a million different options that they're thinking about. It doesn't necessarily mean that they're about to tell you no, or that it's even a concern in the first place. On the flip, let's say you do share some of those other options and they're like, this is still just outside of my budget and what I was expecting. Okay, I completely understand. Like, I also try and stay within like my budget too. But when I do find something that I really like, solves a problem, or makes my life easier, I buy it. After all, like, we work way too hard to not enjoy the things that we want and deserve and enjoy this life that we're given. And so, you know what? You deserve that too. Like, let's just do this.
Mhm.
But can you be that bold? Can you
Yeah.
say that to someone? Because they also might, just want to continue to talk through that process. And maybe you're like, when was the last time that you went over budget for something you really wanted?
Mhm.
Do they have an answer for that? Is that something that they exercise? Do they exercise their own financial literacy, right? Because sometimes, again, it's not about you, it's about them. And you can always say, well, and did you regret the decision that you made to get the things that you really want and deserve? Because most of the time, when people spend a little more money for something because it's what they want or it's a little bit cooler in their mind or in their eyes, like, they don't regret it. So, can you pull on that heartstring? Or even ask them, think about your mortgage, think about your insurance, think about your car payments, your student loans, food, the entertainment, even things like Netflix. Can you think of a single bill that you genuinely love paying because it fits perfectly in your budget? Like, sometimes bills are just bills. But the beautiful thing about this bill is that it is going to transform your life to the point where maybe there are other things that happen. You don't get sick as often, or your kiddo doesn't get sick as often, then they can't go to daycare. And now you're paying daycare fees, but also not working to be able to pay yourself and your family. What does that transformation actually do for you? Can we decrease paying out of pocket for doctor's visits or prescription medications because we don't need them anymore because our bodies are functioning better? Like, make sure when we talked earlier about stories, make sure when you're going into that sale, you're reminding them of the goals that they made with you when you
Mhm.
initially started asking them questions about what's affecting them and why, and what they want for their life and what they want for their future. So if you're doing health consultations, or consultations for your service in general, make sure you understand your client's pain points and then you understand what they're actually looking to experience in their life. Because if you can tap into that emotion and you can understand what they're looking for and you know that your product or service can provide them an opportunity for that, that's what you need to talk about and give them the opportunity to actually experience. Because you've had other people experience, maybe you experienced it yourself. Like, share that story. Say something like, I said, I'll tell people all the time, like, yeah, I wasn't sure if I could do XYZ when I was, evaluating a decision about why. And then I did it. And guess what? I got to experience the fruits of it and I don't regret it a day since. Like, can you also just meet that person in that moment and share something that you did that was a little bit uncomfortable, but gave you a really positive result?
Yeah. Or refer it to a patient that's done the same. So it's
100%.
the same thing, like, if you don't have that story, it's like that the method of the feel, felt, found, where it's
Mm.
like, I feel and I understand what you're experiencing. I have a patient that felt the same way. This individual experienced the same thing, but they then found that when they did this, they then got to experience this life-changing experience, right? So it's like you're using opportunity to be able to allow them to say, like, you're not sometimes it's not even your story that's gonna be the most impactful, it's gonna be somebody else's. I also wanted to touch on this because one our mentor speaks about this a lot before we go into anything else is if you are somebody that is constantly negotiating a price, or if you are constantly looking for a discount or looking for the cheapest option on anything, that energy is literally something that is going to flow out from you into the universe, and typically you're going to receive it back. And so if you are somebody, especially when it comes to sales, and as you're training your team, if they are doing any type of sales or finances in your office, they need to be aware of this at the same time, because what we put out, we typically are going to receive back. So if you are literally going to be asking and negotiating for a price on something, you probably are going to find that somebody is going to ask and negotiate a price to you as well. And so it really starts with you too. When you go in and do a sale, you got to check yourself. I invite my team every single day. Are we ready to actually go in? Do you have a good money mindset right now? Do you have a good, like, heart-centered space to where you feel confident to go in no matter the person and engagement that you're talking to? Or are you going in doubting that they're already not going to be able to pay for it?
Yep.
If you're already questioning whether they're going to be able to do it, why would they buy from you?
Right.
Like, there has to be, like, you've heard Marisa, like, I'm like literally taking notes over here. I'm like, I'm going to go freaking reiterate some of this to my team. Like, she's so bought in and she's so honest about what's happening. And this thing is flowing out of her freaking, like, mouth right now because she so understands it, right? Like, as she's talking right now. And so you need to have so much buy-in yourself so that what they're buying in is buying into you more than anything. It's buying you the transformation that you know to be true. And then regardless of what the objection is, you can navigate it from there.
I've literally had people tell me, they've been in the process a little bit, right? And they're starting to see change at this point. And so like we're reflecting, maybe it's their first reevaluation or something like that. And I'll literally, because we do the same thing with like a survey of questions. And people will say, I really came into this doubting, but you were so passionate and so like on fire for what you do and what this business is. That's the only reason I said yes, even though I still had doubts. And now I'm so glad that I did because I'm actually experiencing it. So if you don't show up with passion, fire, and conviction for what you do, that energy can literally transform someone else's ability to say yes or no. If you're
Mhm.
showing up lackluster, or if you're showing up, I mean, we don't like to give guarantees in healthcare, but in all of our experiences on all of our surveys, there is not one person that hasn't marked like something, whether it was related to their direct symptoms or whether they just noticed that they had more energy or they had increased productivity or like someone in their life told them that they were less grumpy, right? Has nothing to do with what they came into our office looking for, but they've already started to see some positive momentum and movement from it. Like, can you just be honest and say that? Like, I can't give you a guarantee, but I can tell you that in our experience, everyone that's worked with us has seen some movement of positive change.
Mhm.
Or are you going to go in there and be like, well, I'm not really sure. Like, you have degeneration. And so we can just see how it goes. And like, if they're on the fence, they're certainly ain't going to buy from you, but they're going to come buy from me because I actually give a shit and I care. And I'm like, no, we're doing this. You want to change? You want to get a different result? Sometimes we have to do something different to get there. So, yeah, this is outside of your norm. Yeah, this may be outside of your budget. Yes, this may be different on your schedule and might require a little finagling, but are you willing to put in the work? Because we're putting in the work for you and we want you to be here and show up so that we can actually help you get to the goals that you're looking for. You ready to do this or what? Like, can you just be in that space with them? Because more often than not, the reason people came to you is because they literally want to be led. How many times do you go to a health professional or your hairstylist or a restaurant and you're like, what's your favorite thing on the menu? Or you're like, I don't really know what I want. Can you just judge me up? Like, and you put your trust in that person that's there. They're literally there in front of you wanting to put their trust in you. Are you going to lead them or are you going to fall to your own mindset bullshit? Okay, moving on. So let's say you've done all that good stuff and they're still just like, I need to think about it. Or I want to talk to someone about it. Cool. I completely understand. I like to think about my decisions too. Usually, when I'm thinking things through, I end up considering either the product, the service, or the pricing. Which one of these things is your biggest consideration right now? Because then you can find out like if they're seeing the value in your service or if it's really just like I need to look at my budget. Like you can find out what they're needing to think about, right? But someone's just like, I don't know. I just need to think about it. Totally understand. Tell me on a scale from 1 to 10, 10 meaning that you're ready to move forward right now and 1 meaning that you would do this for free, where would you put yourself on that scale from 1 to 10? Let's say they say like 6. Let's say they say 10. If it were free, of course I'd be doing it. Okay. I'm like, let's just do it. What do you need to think about? You're already there. Or again, if they do say a lower number, you can say, what would make it a 10 right now? Because then again, you can find out what is their motivation. What are they looking for? Well, it would make it a 10 like if I could actually make it to your office all these times, or it would make it a 10 if it were under $300. Like whatever it might end up being, again, you can find the answer so that you can figure out if you have a solution to it. Sometimes it's needing to talk to my spouse or need to talk to someone else. And so, especially when it comes to the spouse conversation, one, if you can, if there's any person that helps that individual make financial decisions, obviously the best thing first is to try and get them to that appointment so that they can actually hear it from you and your team's voice and mouth and your guys' words about it. If you can't, I highly recommend offering to either have them on a call, like on a conference call, have them FaceTime in. If they can't do that, I also recommend and always suggest, like, would you like to record me? Because again, at least then they can share that with their spouse or their partner. Again, actually hearing the value from you versus someone else who's being inundated with information and just may not convey it in the same way. But you can always say, I mean, I understand. I talk with my spouse before making decisions too. Out of curiosity, what are you going to do if your spouse says no? Because if their spouse says yes, they're going to come back and do it, right? But can you get uncomfortable? Can you ask them, what would you do if your spouse says no? And if they say, well, I would do it anyway. Great. How do you want to handle payment today? Just move forward. If they say no, like I wouldn't do it. So, okay, I understand. What exactly would your spouse say no to? The product, the price, payment? What is it? Because if you're promising their spouse a different changed life and like help with their health and whatever it is that you're offering, that spouse is probably not going to say, no, I don't want my spouse to experience that. Of course, they want their spouse to be happy and healthy and living. Most of the time they come back and they're saying the price. So then again, you can come back to some of the pricing questions and then get into a little bit of the nitty gritty and also understand maybe how to give them information to convey to their partner or spouse about it, especially if it is being recorded. And again, you can actually answer the spouse's objection with a money objection right there. But let's say the spouse isn't there and the recording isn't happening and the call isn't happening. And you can always say, based on everything we've talked about so far, do you actually feel confident that you'll be able to show your partner the same value that you see here now with us today? If they say yes, then you can ask, great, what do you think is going to be their favorite thing about it? And let them say like XYZ, what they have loved about your presentation of the sale, like your promise, your service. And you can always come back and be like, yeah, I agree. Although we cannot be heroes every day, let's get this done so that you can go home as the hero with the ability to sleep better or less grumpiness or less low back pain so that you can participate in the house chores, like whatever it is, right? That they have put their goal in forward, that your partner will also love for you to experience, not only for you, but also then for how you show up as a partner.
To add, so you mentioned the recording them. One of the things that we do, especially if those options are not available, that we will send a pre-recorded report of findings, basically the education that we are communicating,
Yeah.
because that's a lot of times, whether it be money or typically a spouse's most common objection, like Marisa mentioned, is money. The other one is really like, I don't understand how this is going to help, but they've
Right.
now not, unfortunately, they have not had the chance to hear from us. So to be able to educate them of really like how we can help is going to be really important for them to understand. And then we similarly will ask a question. Do you feel like you have all of the questions that your spouse is going to ask you? Do you feel confident to answer them? And what questions do you feel like he would or they would ask you that you don't feel equipped to answer? Like we'll ask those questions so that they feel like they can again give us feedback based off of that. And then the other thing, just a small little tip, always, as much as possible, try to schedule a financial visit afterwards. So if they absolutely have to take it back home, I will never leave them without an appointment on our schedule. So we will always put a financial appointment down so that, for one, my team is reaching out and making a reminder phone calls. They're getting texts from us. They're getting like our nurture sequence basically that way, along with, and they will, it's something that's on their schedule. They're already prepping and planning for. They need to then let me know that something's not going to continue. but regardless, I'm going to put it on there. If they don't want to, I just then use the language of like, well, we're going to just go ahead and put it on there. Let's loosely put it there for the sake of like, it's going to help us be able to make sure we keep track of what's going on for you. Let's look at what happens next week. But then I'll also ask the question, like if they need to go talk to their spouse, do you think the next 24 or 48 hours will be enough time for you to be able to communicate all that you need to communicate and answer the questions that you need to answer? And they will then either say yes or no. So I try to get it as scheduled as soon as possible, because the longer period of time that they go without any type of answer is going to be a longer period for a no, or an easier period for a no.
I love that. Let's talk about too, if they want to like be I've had this before, I'd like to be a responsible consumer and evaluate other options and get other opinions. I'm always like, I completely understand. And I think that that is great practice and good for you for being a true advocate for yourself and your health and gathering information. And I believe that you'll end up making the right decision for you. Tell me, when you are shopping around, do you usually pay more attention again on finding the best absolute price, or more attention on finding the best value, service, and quality? Because again, you're building them into an opportunity to tell you, again, if they want price, then you can get specific about it. Or if they say value, you can also ask them more questions about what it is that they're truly looking for, to understand then what you either do provide or whether to point them in the direction of something else. You can also let them know that, I don't blame you for doing that. Like, I like to gather as much information as possible before coming to a conclusion on what I want to do. But tell me, what did you like most about what you have experienced in our office so far? Let them share it. Got it. I absolutely love to hear that. At the end of the day, like, time is the only thing that's more valuable than our service. So why don't we save you time and just get this done today and get you started on your first adjustment? Because again, although your buyer might have a serious consideration to continue looking around at other products, using time as an opportunity to help them save that can be helpful and make you close. You could also use story and tie that in from other people. Like, I've had this happen where other people have also chosen to get a second opinion, and they've actually even started at other chiropractic practices before, whether it be due to price, finding a cheaper product, or something else that might be closer to home or in proximity to them. There's several that have come back because they didn't appreciate the service. They didn't get the results that they were looking for because it wasn't the same caliper, or they were willing to drive a little bit longer for the experience and the convenience that our office offers in other ways. Again, you never need to talk down another office or service, and that's not what any of us want to do by any means. And I don't like to operate that way in my business. But can you up talk your service without down speaking about anyone else or the profession that you are engaged in and love so much? So these are all just opportunities and responses to invite people into the space so that you can really try and isolate what the true consideration and concern is for your buyer, to help them move into even just having a more real and honest conversation about what it is that they're concerned about or what it is that they're looking for, so that you can, again, make things happen faster so that they can also experience the life that they want from engaging with your product and service. So hope this was all helpful for you. And again, total shout out to Jordan Stupar for his cash cards that kind of helped inspire this conversation for us, because we do get a lot of these questions. And Sarah and I both, we've navigated this stuff, especially when it comes to pricing, changing prices, inflation goes up, like product costs go up. We need to raise our prices, how to communicate that to people. And even sometimes with your teams, like coming back and saying, well, this is hard for me to explain to other people because of their own money mindset. So I love the example that Sarah gave of like having a check-in with your team. Like, are you really prepared for these conversations right now? But even for us, sometimes it's not our team, it's actually us, and they're feeling it from us as the leaders and the owners. And so just being able to check yourself. And also, again, if you are holding on so tightly to controlling your business and needing to get every single sale because of a number, you're going to have that come through in this process, and it's not going to feel authentic, and that can actually shy people more away than if you just, again, are leading with impact, but can just open and honestly have conversations and not be nervous about it, not catch your tongue, not speak really, really, really fast and have people like, oh, well, on a scale of 1 to 10, would you do this if it were free? like the tone and how you carry yourself in that conversation is very much going to come through. So if there's one thing we can also remind you of from the beginning of this conversation is practice, practice, practice. Write down some of the questions that you commonly get. Have your team share the things that they hear in those rooms, and then have a running list and record yourself saying it. How would you answer that question? Record yourself, play it back so you can hear yourself and be like, would I buy from me? And run it with your team. You are the leader. Be the example, and also be humble enough to learn and grow and improve.
Thanks for joining us today. We will see you guys next time.
So thank you for joining us on another episode of the Heartwork Podcast. We hope today's conversation has inspired you to lead with heart in your business and life.
If you enjoyed this, subscribe so you never miss a release, rate our show, leave us a review, get on our VIP email list, and join our exclusive Facebook group, The Heartwork Life, to plug into our community and learn from us and other heart-led entrepreneurs on a weekly basis.
We look forward to chatting with you next time.
Bye!